Alright, sorry about that. Hello, fellow Gwent players, and as you might know, there is a new expansion coming. It's a Novigrad-themed expansion with a new faction, the Syndicate, with 5 new leaders, 3 of which we already have neutral cards from, and those are Cyprian Wiley, Cleaver, and King of Beggars. The 2 others, I forgot their names, but they don't really matter as long as I don't know their ability just yet. Now, the whole theme of this expansion is money. So what CDPR did with this new faction is they somehow found a way to add sort of a mana system to Gwent, and I will try to explain this with the cards that I have in front of me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and review the 20 cards that have been revealed on the developer stream. The first one is gonna be Caleb Menge with his ability of Profit 3, Fee 3 melee, place a bounty on an enemy unit. Now there's already 3 new words that you've never heard in Gwent, so I'm just gonna try and explain this as easy to understand as possible. Now, as I said, the theme around this expansion is money, so the first ability, Profit 3, is him giving you this money. You play this card, you get 3 monies. Now the Fee 3 on the melee ability is like an order ability. You could immediately trigger this with this card. Say Fee 3 is you have to pay 3 coins for this ability to work. So what you can do is you play this card and immediately trigger its ability because you gain 3 profit. But you don't have to. The Fee ability is like an order ability that you can always trigger if you have enough money in the bank. And the last word that has not been explained yet is place a bounty on an enemy unit. Now this is a status just like immune, shield, bleeding, and vitality, like all those other statuses, which means that if the unit dies that has a bounty on it, you gain the money from the base strength of this card. So you kill a 5, you get 5 monies, which you can use to then replay this ability or other abilities with Fee on them. Now the next card that they revealed was Morels. I don't know if this is the proper pronunciations because they never really show anywhere how these cards are actually written. So I'm just going off the way that Berza pronounced this card. Now this card reads, deploy, damage an enemy unit by 4, tribute 6, destroy a target instead. Now the deploy is pretty easy to figure out. It's a pretty easy ability. It's a 4 deal 4, but tribute is something that is not like Fee where you can use the Fee all the time. Tribute is an additional ability. So what I'm thinking the game does is ask you if you want to also use the tribute ability, and if you want to, you can only use it once pretty much. It's not like an order that you can always use when you have 6 coin, you can destroy an enemy unit. That would be a bit broken. But even then, at 9 provisions and being able to kill a unit with 6 coins in your bank is, in my opinion, ridiculously strong. This card is insane at 9 provisions. And I don't think this card is going to be released at a 9. I think it has to be a 10. There's no way this is not going to be a 10. And if it isn't, the card is literally broken and will be auto-include in pretty much every Syndicate deck. I mean, it's probably already going to be in pretty much every Syndicate deck as it is a very strong ability. The next card is Witch Hunter Executioner, Profit 2, so you get 2 coins. When you play this card, Fee 1, give bleeding to an enemy unit for 1 turn. If it has a bounty, damage it by 1 instead. Pretty simple to explain. It's a 3 that gives you 2 profit, and you can use those 2 profit to immediately proc the 2 points that this card can give you. Now what I like about this new faction is the way you work with your money is you have to be very cautious, I'm guessing. So this card is actually really interesting at a 5 provision card. I think it's fair. I think it's decent as it is right now. I don't think this card will be auto-include, but I do think this card is a pretty decent card to just sometimes put into your deck if you want to go for some damage things. So the next card that they revealed is Back Alley Alchemist. This card is deploy, give an allied unit poison and boost it by 2. Now this card is insane. If you think about it, this card is actually insane. It's a 6 for 4. You're only going to poison like 2 or 1 point units if there are any. And even if the opponent has poison, he doesn't really play it for much points if he targets a 4-point or a 3-point unit. So I think this card is absolutely bonkers at 6 for 4, and it's very rarely punished because poison as an archetype is really bad in itself. So I think this card will be auto-include in every Novigrad deck, even if they are running poison or not. It's a very strong point play for 4 provisions. So if you brick on this card and didn't get to mulligan it, it's not that bad. It's still a 6-point card, which isn't really that bad, to be honest. The next card is Wretched Addict. And this obviously works with the self-poison archetype, as it reads, every ally turn on turn end if this unit is poison, boost it by 1. Now this, on the other hand, is not as good as Back Alley Alchemist, because if the opponent does run something like a poison punish, this card will get punished, obviously. Whereas if you play Back Alley Alchemist, you can just boost like a 1 or 2, as I said, and not really lose any points if the opponent does run poison. Whereas this card is very susceptible to removal, even big removal, as you are boosting it by 2, so it's already a 6, so within like 2 turns it becomes an 8, so it's a big removal target. And I think this card is kind of not going to see any play at all. It might see play for like gimmick decks. I'm not sure how far advanced the self-poison archetype is, but I do not think that this card is very good at all. As it is, I don't think this card is good, but I don't know if there are any other good self-poison cards in the game just yet, as these are the only 2 that they've revealed. Now the next card is Grand Inquisitor Helvide, if I said that correctly. It's a 4-point card, 10 provisions, profit 4, fee 2, spawn a Fire Sworn Zealot and summon him to this row. Now we don't know what Fire Sworn Zealot looks like, but I'm guessing it's a 2-point card. And this card's pretty decent, honestly. You have profit 4, so you can already spawn 2 of these Firesworn Zealots for this card to get 8 value if the Firesworn Zealots are a 2-point card. Even with like profit 6, you're gonna get a 10-point card. If you're spending 8 on this, you're getting a 12-point card plus a lot of units, which is really good for something like Commando's Horn, even enables a very good Bone Talisman, and Yennefer obviously as well. So they're going for a Swarm archetype with the Religion of the Eternal Fire, which is perfectly fine with me. It's a very interesting archetype, and this card is definitely an auto-include in that Swarm archetype. And with the last card that I just talked about comes Eternal Fire Priest. 4 provisions, 3 power, whenever you spawn 1 or more units, boost self by 1. Now, this card works obviously really well with the last card that I talked about. It also works really well with Germain. This card would be good with Summoning Circle, so you spawn like 4 of these Zealots and gain 4 points for this card, so it comes at a 7. But in total, I think this card at 3 just dies most of the time. I'm not sure about this card. It might be good, it might not be good. We still have to see how far fleshed out this archetype actually is. Another card that is supposed to work with this Swarm synergy is Keeper of the Flame. Deploy, boost adjacent units by 1, tribute 4, boost all allies on this row. As I said, tribute you can only use once. So this is like a Dennis Cranmar for 5 provisions if you have 4 coins in your bank. So with Grand Inquisitor Helvide, this card also really works well, as Grand Inquisitor Helvide does put a lot of units on the board. I'm not sure if you can choose where you can put those units, and even just on deploy, this is just a 5 already. So I think this card is really, really strong as a 5 provision unit, as it has a very high ceiling. I think this card will be very strong and will be seen in a lot of decks with this faction. Even if you're not playing Swarms, I think this card will be a very good card. The next card is Tough Crown Splitters, I think is what they called it. It's a 4-point card, 4 provision, Intimidate. Now, Intimidate is another keyword. Intimidate means that whenever you play a crime special card, this boosts itself by 1. Now, they said that the card design of this is based off a movie. Now, if you can guess what this is, I mean, this is clearly based off the Oogie Loves movie. If you haven't seen that movie, go check it out right now. Greatest movie ever made. Go check it out. But yeah, Intimidate is an interesting little archetype. They've shown 2 crime cards, and I think this card is actually decent because it is a 4 for 4 plus potential to gain more points because it is an engine. And that's pretty much how engines work. If the engine is a 4, it's a decent engine. If it's a 3, it's not that good of an engine. So I do think this card will see some play in some decks. Not every deck, but some decks for sure. Now the next card is the Sausage Maker. This card is absolutely fantastic. It's a 5-point card, 10 provisions, Intimidate, just like the last card, Profit 3, so you're getting 3 coins into your bank, Fee 5, Melee, gain Resilience. When you think about it, you can use this card every single round for carryover. If the opponent doesn't remove it, of course, but the card is absolutely fantastic. It's a 5-point carryover card. If need be. It's like a Gabor Zigrin, pretty much, but with a little bit of an extra cost. But because of the 3 profit, you only need 2 coins in your bank to enable this resilience. So I don't think that's going to be too hard. And with the Intimidate tag as well, it's also kind of an engine, just like Gabor Zigrin. This looks like a really fun card to work with because the ability to keep this card for the entire game on the board is a very interesting one. For sure, and it's a card that I will definitely try out and use. The next card is Crown Splitter Thug. Crown Splitters have been the previous 2 cards. This is the last one that they revealed, with Intimidate as well as the other last 2, with the Deploy, damage an enemy unit by 2. So it's a 5, that's also an engine. This is pretty similar to Wyvern. It's a 3-point engine that also deals 2 damage. Now this card might not be in every deck as it is just a 5 provision card, so maybe this is good in like Shoop as a one-off, or if you're going full Intimidate mode, this could also be kind of good, but I don't know yet. This card is just very basic at the moment, and we don't know how good the other crime cards are that haven't been revealed to us yet. The next card that I'm going to talk about is Subcruce. This card is the first dual faction card that they revealed. Now, dual faction cards are cards that you can play in 2 factions. So they're not neutrals, but they are available for 2 factions. This one is available for the Syndicate and Skellige faction. And its card reads, prevent the unit to the left of Subcruce from taking any damage. Now there are cards later on that have a little keyword which synergizes with this card in the Syndicate, but in Skellige, this card is also really strong, especially with something like a light longship, which just becomes a 5-point engine that deals 1 damage every turn without taking any damage. That's just insane. The card is a 5 provision card, goddammit, and it's just gonna deal 1 damage every turn if it stays alive. But I do still think that this card might not see a lot of play, as it is pretty slow as a 6 for 10 provisions, which I think is a bit overcosted for this ability. As it currently is, I don't think the card will see a lot of play, as I think it's just too expensive for its ability. But if this card will ever see play, it will probably be more in Skellige rather than in Syndicate. Now the next card that they revealed is a Dip in the Pontar. I'm not sure if this is a crime card. I don't think it is, but it reads Profit 3, damage an enemy unit by 3. Now for 5 provisions, that is actually a very strong card because the 3 profit is actually amazing. Because if you have a card that has a fee ability, you can play this card, enable the fee ability, and also damage a unit by 3, which is seriously strong. I think this card will see a lot of play or absolutely no play. But the way it looks right now, I think this card can be very powerful. The card is very powerful because of the 3 profit, in my opinion. Because it is also removal and can enable a bunch of fee units on your board. It's a special card. It's really hard to evaluate special cards, but I do think that 3 profit does make a huge difference. Now, the next card that we have is Sea Jackal. Fee 2, boost self by 2, Horde 7, boost self by 3 instead. It's a 4 for 4. It has a new keyword meaning Horde 7. Now, I'm personally not that sure what Horde actually means. They didn't really explain it too well, I think. But from what I've seen on Reddit, I think it works like this. Imagine you have 9 coins in your bank, which is already your limit, by the way, and you use this card for its fee ability, so you are left with 7 coins, which means you've hoarded 7 coins. Then the card boosts itself by 3 for the first fee payment. Now, I'm not sure that's actually how it works, but that's my explanation of it. And I think this card is really strong, honestly. Like, if you're playing this for its Horde ability, you're just going to boost this card over and over and over and over again. And it's really strong, actually. Even as an engine, this is really strong. Because you play this as a 6, then you play something like Dip into Pontar. You can boost this by another 2, keep 1 coin still. I think this card is really strong in general. This is a very, very strong and efficient engine for the Syndicate faction. And I think this card will be auto-include in pretty much every deck at the start. The next card is a special, Pickpocket, which just reads Profit 6. Now, at first, I thought this card was complete trash, but I am completely wrong. This card is actually really, really strong, as you can play this with pretty much every fee card, and it gets a lot of points. This is a 6 for 6 if you have Grand Inquisitor. This is also a crime card, so it also works with Intimidate, and it also works as carryover, because coins do carry over. They get halved from round to round, but it still works good as carryover. It's probably going to be very underestimated at first, but later in the game, this might get stronger and stronger, or I might be wrong and this card is actually complete trash as I thought how it was at first. So who knows? This card is a mystery to me as it produces technically 0 points on the board. So let's just see how this card works. I'm very curious if this card can synergize with certain cards or not. Now, another thing that I have to note about this card is that it's really strong in round 3, where points actually don't really matter and you don't need to stay ahead like in the first round or second round if you're getting bled. So this card in round 3 could actually be insane. The next card is the Beggar. It's a 3-point card for 4 provision, which reads Profit 2, Bonded Profit 4 instead. I really like this card from both the art and its ability, as it is a 3-point card that gives you 2 profit, and if bonded, it gives you 4 profit. So this card doesn't really produce points on your board, but it's a very good opening play because the 2 profit can be very effective for certain cards, for the cards that we've seen so far. And the Profit 4 on the bonded, I think, is actually insane. But at the same time, these cards don't really produce points and they might be too slow in a round 1, and you don't want 4 provision cards in round 3. Maybe this card might not see play, but I do like its ability and I do like the art a lot. The next card we have is Eavesdrop. It's a special, it's a crime, which reads Profit 4, draw a card, then put a card from your hand at the bottom of your deck. Now this card is meh. It's alright, I guess. Like, it depends. This card, you can't play this card early on, as you do need a lot of cards that have a fee ability for this to actually get some points on your board, because without any fee cards on your board, this card will just be a 0-point play that puts a card at the bottom of your deck. Now, I don't know if any card really synergizes with this bottom of the deck ability, and if it does, that would be really interesting, but I do think that this card will not see a lot of play the way it is currently looking, because it is a 0-point card to a certain degree in my eyes. And Profit 4 isn't really that much. If it were Profit 5, that would be a whole different story. But it's currently at Profit 4, so I'm saying this card is kind of trash the way it is right now. Next card are the Cut Up Gang from Cyprian Wiley, the Casino Bouncers, which read Insanity, fee 2, summon all copies of this unit from your deck to this row. Now we finally have another keyword, in this case it's Insanity, which means that if you can't pay the fee, this card basically just damages itself by 2. Say you don't have 2 coins in your bank, you just play this for a 6, because it's a 2, which puts out the other 4 out of your deck. But if you're also playing Sucrus, the Insanity ability is not going to be triggered, which is what I mentioned earlier with Sucrus, is that these Insanity cards might be really good with Sucrus. But at the current state, this card looks pretty decent. It's a good thinning tool. I think this will be auto-include in pretty much every Syndicate deck, as it is a 6-point card and an 8-point card if you have 2 monies in the bank. The next card we have is another special, Profit 3, lose all your crowns, and damage an enemy unit by the same amount. Now, as it currently stands, this card is a 3 damage. Now this card might work really well with something like Bounty, because Bounty gives you back the crowns that you've spent from killing the unit basically, which could be really strong actually. So I think this card will be auto-include in every Bounty deck. Killing 4s and 5s is probably going to be the goal for this card, so who knows, maybe this card is good, maybe it's not, but I think this card is actually really good because of the Bounty synergy that it has. And the last card that they revealed was Totterwing, a 6-point card, 8 provisions. It's another dual faction card. This one obviously works with monsters and the Syndicate. Deploy ability is destroy an allied unit and boost self by its base power. They haven't really revealed any cards that seem to be able to synergize with this. I mean, Insanity cards could work. In monsters currently, there's nothing to really synergize with this card because there's no card that really damages itself. You're basically hoping for the opponent to damage something like a spear tip, and maybe then you can profit of this card, but other than that, I think this card is pretty weak for a legendary, so I don't see this card being any good unless there are good Insanity cards that are going to be revealed. But at the current state of the revealed cards, I think this card is pretty bad, but who knows how good this Insanity tag will be, and maybe this card might work out if Insanity is actually good. And that wraps up the 20 cards that they've revealed on the dev stream. I'm really excited for this new faction. I think this faction is very interesting because of how you have to manage your resources, different to all the other factions, because you actually have resources this time around. There's so many new keywords that I find really interesting. There's a lot of archetypes that are looking to be explored with this. Now, what I want you to do as a viewer, I want you also to leave your opinions on some of the cards, what cards you like, which cards you're looking forward to, what your predictions are for certain other cards maybe. And if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this little card review, please leave a like, subscribe for more Gwent content, and I'll see you soon.